What is your promise? Why are you in business? How do you expect to grow?
This is The Hook, a show focused on branding, marketing, and business development.
You brand to inspire, not to sell.
Jason Arsmont, the marketing maverick, gives expertise to business owners, serial entrepreneurs, and anyone interested in building a stronger company brand.
Creating a brand is like telling a story. You've got one shot to say it all.
When your marketing works, you've got them on the hook.
We are right back at it for another week. This is called The Hook. Always find us on our website, thehookradio.com. My name is Josh. I'm with Brightbox Brand Marketing, along with the marketing maverick, the guy that basically knows all there is to know about marketing and then strives to find other things by going to places where the Lord of the Rings are shot because, I mean, he's on these different quests to find out new marketing knowledge. Is it new marketing knowledges?
Tactics, strategies.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Whew, you see? I'm like,
And there's
way
no
down
other
on the-
there's no other world to go to.
Yeah.
It's all practical application year after year.
I'm like Frodo's assistant on this. I don't know anything. I'm just like along to find a ring. You know what I'm saying? That's Jason Arsmont. And we are back on The Hook talking about, well, basically everything that pertains to your business, whether it's marketing or branding, or maybe you have a book you want to write. We talked a little bit about that last week, your personal brand. Something that I want to mention from last weekend that happened a week ago is that we had Saturday Night Live, and this is where politics gets into Saturday Night Live.
The good
but
stuff, yeah.
Also, the first appearance by Ronda Rousey was on Saturday Night Live, and I think that a lot of people were worried about how she would come out of this, and really what the parodies and the skits were going to be about, because she's no longer the champ. Holly Holm is the champ.
Well, I think Ronda Rousey's probably still more relevant, in the eyes.
A bigger name, definitely.
Yeah, still a bigger name. And that's the one everybody wants to see. How is she going to act now that she's been beaten, defeated, her title's been stripped. So, yeah, I mean, I was curious to see how she, you always wonder, like, somebody finally loses, and then you're like, okay, are they going to go into, like, depression? Are they going to be the same athlete afterwards? I think she came out and did a good job, huh?
Yeah,
what was your take?
She did a good job. One of the things that, there's a lot of people knocking her, which I get that, because whenever you're a Ronda Rousey and you are the champ and you're the most dominant MMA fighter for as long as she was, I mean, there was no doubt that she was the most dominant. It was out of nowhere that Holly Holm.
I agree. Anybody could have stepped up and challenged her at any time, and they didn't for a long time.
A lot of people say Holly Holm came out of nowhere. That's not true, because she held a lot more belts, had been in a lot more fights.
Oh, she's a world-class athlete for a long time.
More than Ronda Rousey was. But, again, Ronda Rousey for so long, so dominant. So how is she going to respond to all the criticism? I know that Cyborg, woman that she was supposed to have this big super fight with, and then Cyborg had to lose weight to challenge her for the title. She came out and said, looks like Ronda still needs help with her stand-up.
Nice.
So that was a nice shot at her. I know that Travis Brown, Ronda Rousey's boyfriend, his wife, well, I don't know if they're divorced yet.
What'd you say?
Yeah, exactly. So she came out and she took a few swings at Ronda. So I think that the people that don't like Ronda had a lot to work with, because she was on this big, huge show, and it's the first time. She's not Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning is really good at it. She's not Peyton Manning, but she held her own. She did a great job, and I think that she looked endearing to their, into people's eyes again.
Yeah, I think she just came across as personal. She's a real person. She's just like anyone else. I mean, when you're on top, you have to defend, and you got to be bold and brash, and then when you lose, everyone's like, "Oh, see, that's what you get." But to stay at that level, fighting like that, I mean, this is still fighting. You can't do this by not being bold and confident, and it takes a lot of guts and courage to get in the ring. So if you got to hype yourself up, you got to do it, man.
What about Donald Trump? What do you think the parodies that they did with him and Sarah Palin, what does that do to their personal brand?
It's interesting. I thought the way that they did Donald Trump probably still helped him because, he came across as funny, but for the most part, I think he was still pretty spot on. Now, I thought Sarah Palin's was just more mean. They were just being a little bit more vicious on the attack. I don't know. It seemed like maybe she had something to prove, sending a message to Sarah Palin. I thought it was a little out of character for the show. It seemed more mean than playful and funny.
But for the most part, they're always a little catty when it comes to Sarah Palin.
Yeah, they've attacked her pretty hard from the beginning.
And I don't know if it's because she's more playful and can roll with it and doesn't say anything and doesn't come out, because she's met with Tina Fey before and she knows that it's all an act, but it's still her personality that they're putting out there and basically just grilling her.
Yeah, I felt they were a little bit more aggressive in their attack to her this time around for some reason. I don't know. I mean, Sarah came out a little bit more uncut, uncensored this last little tour series she did with Donald Trump. So I think they took advantage of that, and rightfully so. It came across. It was still pretty funny. I liked it.
Great. Okay, so I guess that we don't really have anybody to look forward to tonight. I don't even remember who's on Saturday Night Live. That's the good thing about Ronda Rousey being on that show.
She's going to pull some traffic.
Everybody knew that she was on it. And this segment being brought to you by Brightbox Brand Marketing, which Jason knows a lot about. It's his company.
Yeah, a little branding shop here in Houston. Well, I can't even really say little anymore. We're a good-sized company now. We started about 8 years ago, under all of the roofs of the Box family. We've got just under 100 employees. Brightbox covers full-service brand marketing, from brand strategy to marketing strategy to all the implementation through web, video, graphic design, public relations, content writing, social media. I mean, on and on and on. And so we're a phenomenal company. I'm extremely proud with the work they've done. We've got a new website up at brightboxonline.com. You can go check that out. We've got some case studies. I know we got new videos and case studies going up. What seems like, man, every week you guys are knocking another project out of the park. So
got a great strategist that works there.
Oh man, named Josh. I think, was it Josh?
No, I'm talking about Bree Pear.
Bree Pear. Yeah.
She does a lot better work than I do.
She's solid, man.
Yeah,
that whole team is just really solid. I just couldn't be more happy, especially this past year and a half. Things have just been gelling really well, and I'm just really happy with that company. I'm happy that they're deciding to sponsor us. I don't know who's in charge of that over there.
That would be me.
Oh, okay, good. It's interesting. So last week, I got a bunch of inquiries after last week's show about people just asking about how to get their own book started. And I don't know if maybe they missed. Our guest was Kevin Tomlinson. He shared his book, 30-Day Author. If you've ever wanted to write a book, especially from a marketing perspective, if you're a business owner and you want to be an authority on the topic that you're in the market space you're in, really consider writing your own book. Own that market space with your own ideas and your own unique approach to how you do that type of business or how you deliver or develop that type of product. It's worked really well for us at Brightbox. We wrote our own book. We have a proprietary brand mapping process. The book is called The Brand Map. You can find it at Amazon. Just search The Brand Map and it'll pop right up. Definitely go back to the archives last week, the podcast. You can go to the Hook Radio. Throwing out a lot of domains here. Thehookradio.com, and click on radio. You'll see last week's show, and Kevin's talking a little bit about the power of content, the power of writing as a marketing vehicle, and it was pretty powerful, and we got a lot of good feedback from it. So I want to encourage you guys to go do that. Coming up in the show today, next segment, we're going to talk about customer service. What are you missing out on? How can you improve? And then in the final half hour, we got Lindsey Becerra with the Houstonian,
who is a good friend of ours.
Good friend of ours, working with a great company.
Yeah, I think that she's been there since October. She can let us know exactly when she started working, and she has turned that place around social media-wise and is just doing a fantastic job. It'll be very exciting to talk to her because we actually worked with her a little bit a couple years ago. And so to see her over there doing some great things, it'll be good to catch up and find out, what all is on the horizon with them.
Yeah. And Houstonian is just, it's a Houston, it's like a staple. It's a pillar of hospitality in the city. So I couldn't be more happy that she's over there, and I'm excited to hear what the Houstonian's going to be doing and some of the changes that they're making, and I'm excited to get some insight from Lindsey. She was a longtime content strategist, and she's got a great eye and strategy for social media, so I know she's going to bring a lot of great stuff to this show today. Yeah, so next segment, like I said, we're going to talk about customer service. And I don't know if you've got any horror stories with this, but I feel like every time I have to call one of the big companies like AT&T, for example, I'm just going to put them on blast. It's like calling the IRS. It's a painful reminder that these companies are just so out of touch with what customer service really is.
I had an issue with Sprint. I get it.
Yeah. And I don't know why they can't get the fact that every single touch point is an opportunity to resell your consumer. So we're going to talk a little bit about how you can make sure that your company's running on all cylinders, including the customer service department, coming up here on the next segment.
All right, we'll be right back, taking a short break. You're listening to The Hook.
She's been playing at a room on the strip for 10 years in Vegas.
You're spending your Saturday afternoon with us, and we couldn't be happier. We are The Hook, thehookradio.com for all of your past episodes that you might have missed out on. We have all the interviews there. Also, a way to check in with us by signing up for our newsletter. I know that you get emails all the time, Jason.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great place to go. Sign up. I try to get information out to you guys at least once a week, but probably more like once a month. But if we've got a big guest or a big topic coming up, I try to let all of our listeners know, and that's a great way to stay in touch with us. This segment is brought to you by OnToBoxTraining.com. OnToBox is our corporate training group. This is kind of an interesting company. It came from kind of request, kind of demand. Last year, after finishing the Texas Freedom Run and getting a lot of exposure through that, I had a lot of people reach out asking, what did we do at Brightbox and the family of box companies to get such great success and be multiple Inc. 500 recipient, which is ranking on the list of the 500 fastest growing privately held companies in the United States. And I just had some really good success over the past 7 years, and I was getting more and more questions about what did we do as far as team building, culture, sales training, sales management training, workflow process, how to turn your workflow into the digital era. And so OnToBox came from that kind of request, that demand for that type of information. So it's parts, business consulting, part on-site training. So, if that's something that you're interested in, definitely encourage you to go check out ontoboxtraining.com. Feel free to reach out to myself or my business partner, Daniel Cohen. This interesting. Last week we were talking about CX, right? Client experience.
That's right.
And we talked about how there are two main ways to get consumers to take action, because that's really what it comes down to, especially when you look at if you're in sales, marketing is the exact same thing, and then really even in customer service. And those two main ways to get someone to take action is one, through fear. Right? If somebody's fearful of something, they will normally remove themselves, or they'll take action to eliminate whatever that fear is. Or two, it's through inspiration. And then under inspiration, you can kind of break that into two different categories. One, inspiring people to want to engage with you based on the things that you do, maybe outside of the office or outside of the engagement with them. For example, when I ran across Texas in that philanthropic effort, I had a lot of people reach out to us, even in our company, to want to work with us and engage with us because they had the feeling that, hey, this is somebody that we would like to engage with. And so we kind of inspired them through our actions. So you can do that in your own company. And then two, it's inspiring them through your passion for their success. And I think this is something that gets missed a lot. I always say it's like, having people in your life that you love and never telling them that you love them. I feel it's just as important to remind our clients that we are passionate about their success, not just about selling them a product or a service, but that we strive every day to make their lives more successful through whatever service or product that you're delivering. And that kind of brought home to me this thing about customer service. We were talking a little bit at last segment, and I had just a horrible phone call with AT&T this week, which kind of teed this up for me. I don't understand why there's such a big disconnect from, you'll see customer service up through the point of the sale, and then for some reason it just completely drops off once it comes time to just the day-to-day communication. I'm sure you've had some nightmares.
My nightmare was that I went in and signed a new contract with Sprint, and the salesperson gave the whole spiel. I was like, okay, cool, I want this, and I even upgraded because it was going to be less money.
Man, upgrade.
And then she changed it after I signed it. The day afterwards, she
my
changed
God.
my plan to something different, so I was paying more money. And so I kept on, calling Sprint back and forth and trying to deal with it, and they never, ever, they would never do anything about it. They're like, well, we'll give you a $50 credit. I was like, but I should have $500 in credit or more from these months I've been overpaying.
Yeah. I guess it's just like the size company. They just disconnect themselves from that.
But a lot of times these companies really emphasize the fact that they are so customer service oriented. I've been with Sprint for as long as I've had a cell phone, which is 13 years now, I think. As long as I've had a phone, I've been with Sprint. It's like, so you're going to throw away that kind of
Loyalty.
loyal customer?
Yeah. I mean,
Or
look at the
something like that.
lifetime value of you as a customer to them. I mean, come on. Like, I think there's so many little things that these big companies could do that I'm seeing smaller brands do really, really well. Like, send me a text every now and then. I mean, hell, you have my phone number. Send me a text every now and then, just saying, thanks for being a customer. We appreciate your loyalty. Just reminding me that you still think about me and you care about me as a consumer.
But let's look at this from the other side. We just said 2 brands that we felt had not so great customer service. Can you think of one company? And we're not going to do the Yelp thing where we just trash people, and that's what people do. Like with Yelp, they go and they trash the business that's not so great.
Yeah,
what about a company that has great customer service? Do we talk about them as much?
We don't talk about them as much.
Why not?
I guess it's that thing. I always ask clients, what do satisfied customers say? And they always say satisfied customer says nothing. And so maybe that's kind of the same thing. Like we expect and we really appreciate, but it's not something that we go brag on. But I mean, look at Chick-fil-A. People talk about Chick-fil-A all the time. I've heard it in this studio so many times from guests that will just refer to the culture or the experience at Chick-fil-A. And it's kind of like nationally, it's understood that that's, kind of the bar for great customer service. And honestly, I don't think they do anything like outside of the norm. They're just nice. I mean, it doesn't seem like it would be really hard work to get your team on board with that type of a culture. But
I have kind of the same thing with H-E-B. I go to the H-E-B over there on Bunker Hill and I-10. That store to me is like the perfect store, or as close to the perfect store as you can get. They don't have underwear. If I could buy underwear there, it would be like the best.
That'd be it for you?
Pretty much.
Some pasta and underwear?
But they have everything I need there.
Yeah.
I don't need to go shopping anywhere else, which is what I don't want to shop at like 15 different stores. They haven't done anything to really win me over besides put a store that's really awesome, that has the beer I want and a lot of it with the food that I'm going to buy and the great produce. I mean, it's all in one location.
Yeah. Well, when you give somebody your money and they treat you well, that doesn't stand out as like a unique thing. You should expect that. And I challenge you, business owners and folks in the marketing department and HR, whatever group you're in, whatever part of the department of the company you're in, to think about your customer service and think about how you can tighten it or strengthen it. I've got 4 key things here that I've worked on in the past, and you can go to thehookradio.com on our blog. This is an old entry that I put in some time ago, but I thought it was relevant for the conversation. One of them is personalization at every touch point. Whether it's an e-blast or a direct mailer or a phone call or whatever it is, how can you personalize that so that that person feels special? And you see this at restaurants, or you see it somewhere where you give them your debit card or you pay, and they always try to refer to your first name. They look at your ID or whatever it might be, and they say, "Oh, thank you, Jason, for blah, blah, blah." So personalization at every touch point is really key, and I think a lot of us do that, but you got to make sure that when somebody calls into your company, you're not just going through the complaint or going through the problem, that you stop, you look up their account, you get their information so you can refer to them in a personalized way. The next one is kind of interesting. You would think more people do it, but the more consulting I do, the more I find that people don't. Train your team. You as the business owner have a passion, have a vision for how you want your customer to be serviced. I guarantee you the majority of you aren't properly training your team. You have the assumption that your team feels the same way about your customers as you do, but more than likely, something's being missed. So stop, take the time, do a team training. Even if you got to bring everybody in on a Saturday, bring some pizza, give everybody a little bonus, you will be rewarded for it in the long run. Get feedback. Number 3, get feedback. This is a big one. A lot of people don't do. SurveyMonkey.com. It's a great survey tool. It's cheap. It's free. Send emails out to your clients asking for their feedback about the customer service and what you can do to make it better. Feedback is key. The next one is communicate. Number 4, if you are not properly communicating ahead of circumstances with your client, then you are missing the whole point of customer service. You should be out in front of anything that happens, even giving updates when it doesn't seem like it's even necessary. Clients love that stuff. We really strive for that at Brightbox, and well, really all of our companies, but Brightbox especially because it's so service-oriented. Every step of the project, even if it doesn't include the client, it's an internal step. I try to email the client saying, hey, we've now gone to this step internally. This is where the project is at. And the response is normally nothing, but you know that it gives a peace of mind that the client's aware that things are happening, next steps are being taken, and that you're thinking of them through that whole process and not just waiting for a paycheck. I think those are all extremely important. I'm sure there's dozens and dozens of other things, but those have kind of been the 4 kind of cornerstone or main things that I've tried to remind myself of as a business owner, each year as we go into looking at our customer service and how we can strengthen it.
I got another one to brag on for customer service, and that's partly to do with our guest coming up next. She's waiting here. Lindsey Becerra is coming in, and she's with the Houstonian. Fantastic customer service.
Oh, man.
They go out of their way, and so she can talk to us about that. In just a few minutes, she'll be in. That's Jason Arsmont, the Marketing Maverick. My name is Josh with Brightbox, and we'll be back right after this on The Hook.
Song of the South, sweet potato pie, and I shut my mouth.
You are listening to The Hook. My name is Josh, along with Jason Arsmont, the Marketing Maverick, and we call this The Hook not because it's a fishing show.
Business hook.
We don't do any fishing here. It's like in the marketing world, whenever you get someone in, it's the hook.
Yeah, it's how you hook them, how you captivate them to take action towards engaging with your brand. That is the hook. That's the moment. Most of us business owners or people who are in marketing, sales are always looking for that special hook, and that's what we're committed to.
You can always find out more about our show and listen to the back episodes at thehookradio.com. And we have a guest in, and I actually feel good about this one because all the time we have your friends in, and not that she's not your friend, but she's my buddy, too.
All right, we'll put your friend first. I know Josh does this every week. Your friends. I want to have more contact. Yeah. Well, you're doing a good job. Today's guest is Lindsey Becerra with the one and only the Houstonian here in Houston, Texas. Lindsey, welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, I know there's a lot we can cover. I mean, the Houstonian is kind of this cornerstone in Houston, so to speak. And Lindsey's got a big background in marketing and social media. But maybe, Lindsey, for those who don't know what the Houstonian is, maybe give us a little background on what it's all about. What is the facility over there?
So the Houstonian is actually an 18-acre campus. We've got a spa. I know most people are familiar with it. It's called Trellis. We also have a club, and then we have the hotel. So
okay, like a nightclub, or is this like it's like a health and fitness?
It's a health and fitness club. Yes.
Okay. I'm like, ooh, I didn't know about that one.
Don't go party at the club.
Wow, 18 acres. Is that right?
Yes.
And you guys are like right here in town. I mean, that seems unreal that there's that much real estate taken up. I'm kind of blown away by that. I didn't realize.
And kind of tucked away at the same time.
Well, that's why we call it an urban oasis, because you're in the city, but you go in and it's like you're in a woodland oasis.
Yeah, so true. I know we could be in the Galleria. We're here right now by the Galleria on 610 San Felipe. So we're just up the road from Houstonian, and it's busy. There's traffic, there's a major freeway, but something about when you get on the facility over there and you get out of the car, you feel like you're in just another place. I mean, you don't feel like you're in the middle of all of this concrete jungle. It's just beautiful.
Can you distinguish why it's called a campus?
I think, and this is something that I've been asking since I'm fairly new. It's because it has it's got 3 buildings. We've got the hotel, we've got the spa, we've got the fitness center, and we've got all the pools. So essentially, it's kind of like Schlumberger, how they have a campus, we kind of equate out to the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think 18 acres, the 18 acres probably...
It's a campus.
It should be a campus. I mean, it's gorgeous. If you guys haven't ever been out there, I mean, from dining to hotels to holding events, conferences, to just joining and being a member of the spa and the health club, man, I really encourage you to go check this out. I mean, most people who are in business have had some kind of lunch meeting over there at some point, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, and by the way, my college campus, McNeese State University in Lake Charles,
shout out,
smaller than 18 acres.
Nice. So that's why it's a campus.
Your campus is bigger than mine was.
It's nice.
Yeah, you guys have a lot of stuff going on. I know that you have the 3 separate entities you talk about, but there's entities within entities. We're talking about the restaurant. I mean, there's not just one restaurant in there to go to.
No, there's definitely not. You have a choice between, Arbor Grill if you want to do patio dining, which is really nice. It's the best thing about Arbor Grill is that it looks different than any other place on campus. So it's a great place to go and check out the architecture, check out, the whole wooded scene, and also, grab some great food. We've got Olivet, and then we also have the Manor House. It's now open to the public for the first time in 30 years. So in March, we're actually going
the Manor House is?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So we're going to be hosting a whole week-long event that you guys are invited to.
Yeah. All right. Press pass.
I didn't even know about that, but I'm good.
So I guess maybe back up a step. So what is your specific role? I know you're new to the Houstonian.
Correct.
So what is it specifically that you were brought on, and what were you tasked with?
So I've been there about 5 months now. It seems like I've been there for years because, everything is great. The people are great. I've stepped into it and it's immediate. But essentially I'm in charge of all of their social feeds. So, we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest. We've just kicked off our LinkedIn, so we'll be doing that, redoing the website, and then we're going to start blogging as well. So
wow. What are some of those social feeds if people want to go out and take a look at the Houstonian? So
on Twitter, we're at Houstonian Hotel. Instagram, it's The Houstonian Hotel. And of course, Facebook, we're Houstonian Hotel Club and Spa.
Awesome. Okay. So just so we're kind of wrapping, because I know a lot of our listeners are in the marketing world or they're business owners. So specifically, your main task is kind of social media, the social presence of the campus, of the property, of the Houstonian, which includes social media, but also like blogging content. And it seems like you're doing a lot with I guess kind of relationships also, right? Or
correct.
I mean, I've come out a couple times and visited you, full disclosure. So, but yeah, so you're kind of handling a wide variety of things.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, it's not just social media. Social media is, is on my title. It's kind of a mouthful, social media and marketing manager. But yeah, I mean, it is about building relationships. And, we're in the hospitality industry, so we're about making friends,
Yeah. It's got to be, I don't want to say frustrating, but, it's interesting with coming on with a company and a brand like the Houstonian and having tons of ideas, right? And I'm sure your brain was just spinning with things that you could do, but then you also have to kind of keep in mind the equity that's there and, there's a history, have you had to balance some of those things, or were there some things that you wanted to do that maybe you put off and you didn't do because you didn't want to shake things up too much, or?
So the Houstonian, I mean, we all know that it's a great brand. It's an established brand. And yeah, I mean, coming in, you have these ideas, but you also have to look at who you're speaking to. You can't essentially, run with every new idea. While they all might, sound great, you have to remember, your market, which specific person that you're speaking to, whether it's, a guest, meeting planner, member, they're all different. So
Right.
they all require different kind of planning and different content.
Yeah. So does the Houstonian have a marketing director specifically, or is it all kind of following under social at this time?
So our director of sales and marketing is Mark Lepton, and then recently we have she was there before and now she's back and she's amazing. Her name is Celeste Womble. She's our campus director of PR and marketing. So she's been there about a month and she's got some great ideas as well. So it's kind of, the three of us, I would say.
Okay. Yeah, I can only imagine how much there is going on with so many different things, from the hotel to the dining to the health and spa. I mean, there's a lot of different things. And I would think, maybe you let me know, but I would think one of the difficult thing is marketing all those different elements without confusing the consumer on what it is you're really trying to sell. Have you guys narrowed down? Is it like a thing or a deliverable or something that you're trying to own in the minds of the consumer? Because with that many different things, it just seems like that it would be a tough task.
So the club actually has its own separate marketing. They have their own individuals that handle that.
Okay.
Celeste does have a say in that. So we have one brand voice, but we're trying to sell an experience as far as, on the hotel standpoint. You come in, it's unlike any kind of experience you get in the city, not only because you're on this oasis, but, the hospitality is second to none. I mean, I remember interviewing and just walking in there, everybody is, on point 100% all the time. So we're all about the experience.
That's awesome. I know we were just talking about customer experience in the segment before, and we were just talking about how so many companies lose sight of the importance of, making a memorable engagement at every touch point. Are there some fundamentals or some things that a mantra that is there internally for you guys that reminds you about customer service, or do you think at this point it's just kind of a untalked about culture that exists? Because I agree, when I went, I was pretty blown away with everyone. Every time you saw somebody that worked there, they were engaging and talking and communicating, and definitely made you feel welcome.
Yeah, the team is definitely great. A lot of those people have been there for 30 years.
Wow.
So it definitely is a company culture. We try to do different trainings and, send out standards, just to remind everybody, not that they need reminding because they're all pretty phenomenal, but, just the customer service aspect, how you're supposed to treat people, especially even, when you look, everyone is put together, their uniforms are very precise. There's one thing that we try to stay away from, and it's something that's hard for me. When someone is like, "Oh, thank you," and you say "no problem," that's not something that you're supposed to say. So
interesting, yeah, because it should have been you went out of your way for it. So I guess you kind of dilute that experience by saying "no problem," right?
I've never even thought about that. That's funny because I've been to a few events too, and kind of bring this back to the event that you had not too long ago, along with Southern Star Brewery, is that you had the beer tasting. Actually, it was a pairing. It was a dinner where you had the pairing with the beer and different foods that were prepared. And this event, I've told you this since that night. There has to be more of these because it was such a phenomenal event. With the beer, every single beer, they prepared a dish that went along with it.
Oh, wow.
And they had their whole culinary staff come out, greet everyone, get to know the people that were attending, talk about the dishes. They had the representative from Southern Star. It was just one of those events. I've never been to an event that was that well put together. Lindsey, I don't know if you had everything to do with that.
I definitely did not. It was definitely a group effort, but I was very proud to be a part of that because it came out really well. The food was phenomenal. The beer, I love beer. I love Southern Star, so it was perfect.
Yeah.
And Molly, she was what is her role? I know that she's a chef, but is she the pastry chef?
She's the assistant pastry chef, yes.
Okay. She did such a great job. She made this, you're going to love this. It was a chocolate cake that had like a stout, Buried Hatchet stout from Southern Star that was,
oh, wow.
She put the beer in the cake, in the pot. It blew my mind. It's like the
beer
best
cake,
thing I ever had in the whole world. It was
Wow.
amazing. And I think, was it Jeff that was there too? That was sitting on the side of us?
Yeah, so Jeff Everts, he's our director of food and beverage, amazing man. And then also you met our executive chef, Neil Cox. He came out and I believe reviewed some of the dishes. And then also our chef de cuisine, Jeff Licklider, was there as well. So it was...
Everybody did such a phenomenal job of really communicating and talking to people and not just laying back and being shy and making sure that it was, again, we go back to it being an experience.
Yeah.
It wasn't just, here's your beer, enjoy it.
Yeah.
Or we're going to have some food
Well, I
here.
think that comes from that hospitality culture.
Absolutely.
Every single touch point, every detail is thought about, and these people have years of experience in bringing an experience to the consumer. So that's awesome. And I know we could talk forever about the Houstonian. In our next segment, Lindsey, I know you've got a great background in content and social media. Maybe fill us in a little bit more about what you did before you came to the Houstonian, because I want to talk and give some tips to our listeners about some of that stuff coming up.
So I worked for a content writing agency. I also was a marketing director for a small cabinets company. But before then, I actually worked for the Convention and Visitors Bureau for about 5 years. So
Really? Okay. I didn't know that. Cool. That's cool. Well, we got Lindsey Becerra in studio with us. We're talking content. We're talking social media, marketing strategy. Next segment coming up, we're going to give you guys some tips. We're going to talk about a little bit more detail there.
That's right. We'll be right back. That's Jason Arsmont, the Marketing Maverick, and I'm John from Brightbox. You got us right here on the hook.
They were farm kids way down in Dixie.
TheHookRadio.com is where you find us online. You can always sign up for our...
What do we have to sign up for? I was taking a drink of water, man. Hey.
You could have done that before we got back on the air.
Well,
okay.
yeah,
All right. Yes, you can sign up for our newsletter right there. Sorry. This is live radio, people.
Yeah, you get what you get,
That's all there is to it.
We're only halfway professional.
We have a great guest in studio with us today from the Houstonian. We got Houstonian, rather. It's Lindsey Becerra. What's the website of the Houstonian?
So it is www.houstonian.com.
Okay, that's pretty
straightforward.
easy.
Okay,
Yep.
all right. Yeah, roger that.
I like it.
Yeah, so we were talking last segment about Houstonian and some of the things they are doing and aren't doing, and your role with them being a social media marketing manager. And, I know you've got a pretty good background in social media and content specifically, so I thought it'd be good if we talk maybe a little bit about that for our listeners who are in social media, they're in the marketing department or business owners just trying to leverage up maybe some tips or advice. Is there anything, maybe when it comes to content writing specifically, I know it's such a broad category, but I feel a lot of businesses don't take advantage of that, maybe taking it seriously, writing with a voice. Do you have any tips or experience?
Well, I mean, I agree with you. I think that a lot of businesses don't really write with a certain voice. So you really kind of have to look at what you're selling and what you're trying to get across. And, whether it's an experience or, you're selling a certain item, you definitely have to pinpoint, the content and then write around that. So I would say work backwards, figure out what it is you're trying to accomplish, and then use the words to try to sell that or, sell your experience or your item.
Yeah. And I guess depending on your audience or how broad they are, making sure that you're kind of speaking their language, right? I mean,
correct.
Not speaking over them and not dumbing the content down too much.
Correct.
I find that to be, difficult, especially with something like Houstonian, where you have so many different types of audience members, and writing in one consistent tone to all of those different groups can be challenging. Are you doing a lot of writing currently with them, or is that kind of somebody outside of the social media department as far as the new website and stuff like that?
So we have a great guy that does our website currently. We have old content that we're looking at refreshing. So I'm hoping that, I've gotten a crack at some of the content. So I'm hoping maybe to put a little bit of my content on a lot of the other pages. So we'll definitely see.
Yeah. Well, I know we've partnered with Lindsey in the past on content for our marketing firm, and we were just always really happy with her ability to find that right tone, interviewing the client, right, going through the process, and then trying to mirror their personality or the culture of the organization into, powerful content that's going to move or hook the audience. So
tie it in, brother.
Tie it in. That's right. You got to bring it back around. The other thing, we were talking during the break about social media, and one of the things I think it's interesting is you've kind of got a different strategy. I know a lot of people say for social media, all the different platforms you're on, just blast it all out there, get on like a Hootsuite or something, and just send the same thing out across different mediums. Your take is a little bit more personalized or customized, I guess, right?
Well, so the thing with, using the same messaging across the 3 different platforms is each platform is different. So you can't necessarily use the same message. I mean, you can kind of restructure it so that way it's, 140 characters for Twitter or a little bit longer for Facebook. But, I think that's something that, a lot of business owners and people that are in charge of social don't really remember all the time. It's not about trying to blast everything out. You have to be very strategic with the messaging. Otherwise, it gets lost.
Yeah. What is your experience been on, for somebody new getting into social media? And this is a topic we talk about quite a bit. It seems like it comes up, and we get a lot of emails about it. Somebody new getting into social media, like, should they just get on all of them, or do they pick one? How do they know which one to start with? Have you helped guide people in the past through
so
that?
I think
decision?
it's actually, so to get on all 3 at once, I think for some people is overwhelming. I mean,
and those 3 would be.
And so the 3 main are Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Okay, no MySpace. MySpace is out. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, MySpace.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I still have a profile up. And when did Instagram be part of the big 3 or make up the big 3? And instead of it just being just 2 major social media platforms to use?
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say when Facebook maybe bought Instagram.
Really?
But,
Nice. Hey, good one. Nice. Yeah. What was a couple years ago, right?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is going to take off. I was wrong. It really took off. So you're saying start with one, maybe pick something?
I definitely say pick one. I know, like I said, it's intimidating for a lot of people. So, especially at the hotel, we've started, a lot of people aren't on all 3. So my advice is, start slow. And, if you've got questions, especially, for guests or, hotel employees, I'm always there to help. I know not everyone is going to have a me around, but definitely.
We should be so lucky, right? Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about all that, but definitely say start with one and then gradually, work your way up. I think the one that everyone is most intimidated with is Twitter. I get this question a lot. How do I work Twitter? How does it work? It's pretty simple, but it's really fast paced,
Right.
And
it feels like they kind of put you in a box as far as what you can or can't do. So then I think people are like, oh, I'm limited,
Yes.
So I think you're right. It is a little intimidating.
I'm in the same boat. I don't even know how to twit. I have no idea.
Oh my gosh.
Do you call it twits?
Yeah, Josh.
Okay.
Twits.
Okay. So I don't even know how you do that. That's tough. But it's very effective. I will say this, that I used a Twitter link the other day to post something on Facebook because I was trying to get a video and they didn't have they force you to use the Facebook, the little icon off of the TV station.
Yeah. Okay.
And I didn't want to do it like that. And so I just took the link off of Twitter because you have to post the actual link in there,
right.
And then I put it on Facebook. So it was great. Sorry, I'm distracted.
You're breaking
from
the system.
conversation.
You're breaking the system.
But they do offer different ways to do it with Twitter, and I like that part of it. That it's not in the same box. You're not living in the same box of Facebook.
I think what's important too is if you're looking at getting into social media or maybe just expanding on or doing social media more aggressively. I mean, if you go online and you just Google statistics or demographics of the participants on those different platforms and then try to align who you believe your really, really focused niche target audience, your most ideal customer, who they are, the description of them, and then try to put them into one of those three platforms. And then maybe start with that one, right? Because if you got a young person, you're going after kids, maybe it's more Instagram. If it's somebody that's, maybe a mother of 4, maybe you're going to be on Facebook. But whatever it is, look up that information, the demographics, and then match your key audience to that.
And wouldn't you think that the Houstonian has a very diversified portfolio of demographics that go through there?
We do, which is why, we do, which is why all of the messaging for all the platforms that I do are different. On Facebook, like you said, you're speaking to maybe a mother, on Instagram, maybe a little bit more, targeting millennials. So it's definitely about, the content and then the platform. So you have to you have to kind of match those.
Another thing that I always I see people really mess up is handling complaints or disgruntled followers on social platforms. Do you kind of have a way that you do that? Do you fire back just as aggressively, or do you ignore them, delete it? How do you handle that?
Well, I think that you definitely shouldn't ignore it or delete it because that causes
So don't do those two.
Yes. Yeah, definitely don't do those things. Luckily for me, we don't necessarily get a lot of complaints because we're such a great hotel. But
all right, nice.
But I do get a lot of interaction on Twitter as far as people complimenting us, or maybe they have a question, or on the few times that we may have something that isn't as flattering.
Right.
We definitely, I think the best way to handle that is to respond quickly. Also, I don't think that you should watch your tone, especially when you're looking at the internet. I mean, the internet is forever. You can't just delete it. People are gonna snapshot that. It's not gonna go away. So I definitely would say watch the tone.
Yeah, always write with that hospitality mindset.
Correct.
Even if you're responding to a complaint or trying to correct someone's.
What about Yelp? Do you handle that too? Whenever you see a Yelp review that is either good or bad, have you stepped into that foray just yet?
Well, so we have Yelp and we've gotten the reviews. I do respond to those, and on TripAdvisor as well. I know that TripAdvisor isn't necessarily everybody's platform, but for us, we definitely look at those reviews. I try to respond to almost all of them. A lot of them are positive. For the ones that maybe they don't understand, what they're walking into when they walk into the Houstonian. I get a lot of people talking about, the decor, and we actually, it's not that our decor is not updated. It's that, we're looking at a different design style, and not everyone's design style is the same.
Right.
So we definitely handle those a little differently. And, you want to make sure that you don't necessarily trample someone's style, but you also want to get across that, maybe we're looking at things a little differently.
Yeah. And that your perspective is intentional.
Correct.
Right, yeah. The other thing that we were talking about off air that I thought was really interesting that I hadn't done too much with, but I thought you brought a unique perspective in it, is kind of targeting prospective followers. Tell our listeners a little bit more about that and how you've done some of that.
So, especially on Twitter, I tend to do it a lot more than on the other platforms. But we look at the different people that are following us, and for us, it's maybe travel bloggers or foodies. So anyone with a good, strong presence on Twitter, especially, we try to reach out to them and take those relationships from online relationships to offline relationships. So that way, they're more apt to send out a retweet to all their followers, which in turn is good for us because it increases the number, our Twitter following.
Yeah. So offline, you mean engaging them or inviting them to come to the campus, or I guess other people could send their products or services to them or something to get them off of the social platform, or maybe just expand on that a little bit.
So, for example, there's a lot of people that, send us tweets. So if they're in the hotel and they're tweeting and they're maybe with a conference, I try to go and introduce myself and, tell them thank you. And we appreciate, their following us, and we appreciate all of that. And so it's essentially about targeting those different people, and some may not have a big following. Some may, you never know. But it's just about the interaction that you have with those people. But as far as the people with the larger followings, why wouldn't they want to come stay at the Houstonian? Or come visit. So, we always try to extend those offers, just so that way they can experience the hotel.
Right. Yeah. And then throwing out one tweet or one mention can go a long way in the world of social media. Well, I know this is hopefully some you listeners are picking up some of the nuggets that Lindsey's putting down for us. Lindsey Becerra with the Houstonian Hotel, Spa, Resort, Complex, Facility, on and on.
House, the Manor House is going to be open.
That's right.
To the public very soon, so we can look for that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll make sure and mention that again as we get closer to that. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing some insight.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, thanks for being in studio with us. That's Jason Arsmont, the Marketing Maverick. You're listening to The Hook. We'll be back next week.